Who were the Anglo-Saxons? This is their incredible history. The Anglo-Saxons were a Germanic people who came to England after the Romans left. This article looks at their history. March 24, 2022, by Louisa Hagley, BA Archaeology, MA Intel Heritage and Museum Cultures. The Anglo-Saxons, known in Old English as the Anglo-Saxons, shaped much of the English language, culture, and identity. Descended from a hodgepodge of Germanic peoples who migrated to parts of Britain, they inhabited and ruled territories in England and Wales for 6 centuries. Who were the Anglo-Saxons? An Anglo-Saxon warrior's helmet from the Sutton Hoo burial, 6th to 7th centuries CE, via the British Museum. Spanning from 410 until 1066 CE, Britain's Anglo-Saxon period was a time of war, continuous battles, and religious conversion. It witnessed the breaking up of Roman Britannia into several kingdoms, before the Anglo-Saxons were finally joined under the Kingdom of England. The development of an English identity arose as a result of the development of an Anglo-Saxon one. The Anglo-Saxons were primarily migrants from Northern Europe who interacted with one another, as well as with the indigenous British groups, and later, Viking and Danish invaders. They were the dominant political force until the defeat of the last Anglo-Saxon king in 1066. During this time, they crafted a unique identity and material culture that perfectly reflected the numerous and diverse influences that forged them. Where did the Anglo-Saxons come from? Map showing the migration of Germanic peoples across Europe via Encyclopaedia Britannica. In the centuries after 400 CE, low-lying areas in Europe experienced significant and regular flooding, particularly in what is now modern Denmark, Holland, and Belgium. Groups established within these areas began looking for somewhere to settle that was less likely to flood. With the withdrawal of the Roman legions from Britain, the defenseless island quickly became an appealing prospect. Get the latest up. Sign up to our join. Germanic mercenaries were already well acquainted with Britain, having fought for many years in the Roman army as soldiers for hire. In fact, some were even employed to help protect the island against invasion. Even before the Roman legions departed in 410 CE, however, Britain experienced a slow and steady series of invasions from Germanic-speaking groups known as the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. Germanic invasions of Britain. An original page from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, 10th century, via the British Library. The early Anglo-Saxon period began around the time that Roman rule in Britain came to an end, spanning from 410 until 660 CE. At this time, a period of intensified human migrations was taking place across Europe. Germanic tribes such as the Goths, Vandals, Lombards, Suebi, and Franks joined the Angles, Saxons, and Frisians in their search for new places to settle. In addition to substantial flooding catalyzing the migrations, these groups were also pushed westwards by the Huns, Slavs, Bulgars, Avars, and Alans. Initially, the small invading parties were met with little resistance from the Romano-British. As larger invasions came in increasing numbers, however, the inhabitants of Britannia began to fight back. The Celtic groups regarded the invaders as their enemies, and a British Christian leader known as Ambrosius is mentioned by the monk Gildas, 500 to 570 CE, as having rallied the Romano-British against them. Ultimately, however, the invaders were able to settle across most of England. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Map showing the 7 kingdoms of the Anglo-Saxons via archive.org. Following the migration period, various Germanic groups settled in different areas of the British Isles from around 650 until 800 CE. Evidence points towards the probability that the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes originally settled in eastern England. Later, they likely moved westwards and northwards into territory inhabited by the Britons. Cumbria and Cornwall remained the exceptions and held out against the invaders for much longer than other parts of England. Similarly, Wales retained its independence and remained a British stronghold. These groups formed several kingdoms that were frequently at war with one another and constantly changing. By approximately 660 CE, smaller territories had coalesced, and 7 main, separate kingdoms were established. The Kingdom of Kent had been settled predominantly by the Jutes, while the kingdoms of Mercia, Northumbria, and East Anglia were mainly occupied by the Angles. The Saxons mostly settled in areas that became known as the kingdoms of the East Saxons, the South Saxons, and the West Saxons. Today, these areas have retained the roots of their names, known now as Essex, Sussex, and Wessex respectively. Some evidence, while somewhat patchy, suggests that the Mercian kings were formidable rulers during this period. They were probably able to exercise wide-ranging supremacy over much of the country from their seats in the Midlands. Anglo-Saxon society. An early Anglo-Saxon square-headed brooch, 6th century CE, via the British Museum. Much of what we know about Anglo-Saxon society comes from key sources, such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the Domesday Book. Various charters and manuscripts, as well as the earliest law code, written for King Ethelbert of Kent, 550 to 616 CE, also offer us a peek into Anglo-Saxon life and social organization. The Anglo-Saxons maintained a hierarchical societal structure. The king and members of his family remained at the top of society, closely followed by the nobility, including the warrior elite and the church. The coalescing of smaller tribal areas into larger kingdoms also provided the opportunity for members of the elite to progress from warriors to kings. Unfree members of society were at the other extreme, with the vast majority of society comprising the peasantry. What was the language of the Anglo-Saxons? A page from the original manuscript of Beowulf, circa 1000 CE, via the British Library. The Anglo-Saxons spoke Old English, the earliest form of the current English language. Old English evolved mainly from other Germanic languages, including Old Frisian and Old High German. Old Norse, which also originated from Proto-Germanic, also influenced the language considerably. This was particularly the case following the frequent Viking invasions that occurred primarily in the 9th century. It is believed that Common Brittonic and British Latin was spoken in southern England prior to the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons, had little influence on Old English. Surviving manuscripts, such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the...
And I don't trust these people talking about you are German, old Germanic people speaking Old English when they come around here. And then this very English language seems to evolve right across the earth, everywhere these people goes. My opinion is that we have always been speaking this broken language from time immemorial. Yeah, man, these usurpers don't create or originate absolutely nothing at all. I'm telling you, people, this earth is not new, and this location is not new. So I don't mind asking the questions them, who are these people? What's their point of origin? From whence they came? Now we'll look at the Anglo-Saxon. Its point of origin is somewhere in Germany. Yeah, get it, people. Yeah, man. I gotta say the correlation with these people where, we call Khazars. Some people call them Khazars. Some other people call them Chazars. And it's always the elite. It's never the common folk per se. It's always the elite class. Yeah, man. Seeds of the fallen ones.
The epic poem Surviving manuscript. The Anglo-Saxons spoke Old English, the earliest form of the current English language. Old English evolved mainly from other Germanic languages, including Old Frisian and Old High German. Old Norse, which also originated from Proto-Germanic, also influenced the language considerably. This was particularly the case following the frequent Viking invasions that occurred primarily in the 9th century. It is believed that Common Brittonic and British Latin was spoken in southern England prior to the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons, had little influence on Old English. Surviving manuscripts, such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the epic poem Beowulf, demonstrate that distinctive dialects were spoken within the various kingdoms of the Anglo-Saxons. The 4 major dialects included Mercian, spoken in the Midlands, and Northumbrian, spoken north of the Humber. Kentish was spoken in Kent, while West Saxon was spoken across the south and southwest of England. Certain learned members of Anglo-Saxon society also spoke a number of other languages. Latin and Greek, the languages of learning, were spoken by some, while Cornish and Irish continued to be spoken in Cornwall and Ireland respectively. Irish was spoken by many of the missionaries who came from Ireland to help bring Christianity to the Anglo-Saxons. The arrival of Christianity. Augustine Preaching to King Ethelbert, by James E. Doyle, 1864, via the Royal Academy of Arts, London. The Anglo-Saxons who first settled in England during the 5th and 6th centuries brought with them the pagan religious beliefs of their Scandinavian Germanic heritage. Although we know relatively little about these beliefs, we can glean some insight from later Christian writings, as well as the nature of their burial practices. Excavations of early Anglo-Saxon cemeteries have revealed that they probably believed in an afterlife, as their dead were sometimes buried with grave goods. Pagan Anglo-Saxons worshipped at a number of natural geographic features across the English landscape, as well as at some specially built temples. Great significance was attributed to animals and the natural world, but especially to the horse, which was believed to be associated with the gods. They played a central role in rituals and funerary practices, were a prominent symbol of fertility, and were central to much spiritual symbolism. Pagan symbolism is also abundant in Anglo-Saxon poetry and literature, demonstrating the merging of former pagan beliefs with later Christian ones. The remains of Lindisfarne Priory, via English heritage. Late in the 6th century, 2 particular events catalyzed the conversion of the Anglo-Saxons to Christianity. In 565 CE, an Irish monk named Columba, 521 to 597 CE, reached the island monastery of Iona in Scotland. Having studied at the monastic school of Mouville, he established an abbey at Iona, and he is credited with spreading Christianity in Scotland. In 635 CE, a missionary from Iona, Aidan, 590 to 651 CE, was invited by the Anglo-Saxon King Oswald, 604 to 642 CE, to convert the people of his kingdom of Northumbria to Christianity. He chose to establish his new bishopric at the island of Lindisfarne, which became known as the Holy Island. Around the time of Columba's death in 597 CE, an Italian monk named Augustine, early 6th century, 604 CE, was sent by Pope Gregory the Great to convert King Ethelbert of Kent to Christianity. Ethelbert's wife, Bertha of Kent, 565 to 601 CE, was already a Christian, so Ethelbert was probably chosen because of the influence that she was expected to have over him. Following Ethelbert's own conversion, the Anglo-Saxons adopted the Christian faith over the course of the next century. With only some small pockets of resistance, the work of Irish monks and Roman missionaries was crucial in influencing the conversion of the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings. A page showing Anglo-Saxon interlacing illustration from the Lindisfarne Gospels, created by the Bishop of Lindisfarne, around 715 to 720 CE, via the British Library. The growing wealth and success of the Anglo-Saxons and their Christian monasteries soon attracted unwanted attention from mainland Europe, particularly from Danish and Norwegian Vikings. Numerous raids had already taken place by the time the Vikings raided Lindisfarne Monastery in 793 CE, but the attack on the Holy Island marked a significant turning point. It was the most prominent up until that point and triggered a series of violent attacks on numerous Anglo-Saxon monasteries and nunneries. The monasteries in Jarrow and Iona were raided in 794 and 795 CE respectively, while a nunnery at Lyminge, Kent, was granted refuge inside the walls of Canterbury in 804 CE. Vikings continued to raid Anglo-Saxon England until 850 CE, after which they began to remain for longer. They were able to exploit the feuds between and within the various Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and appoint puppet kings. This led to a phase of Viking partial settlement in Anglo-Saxon England and catalyzed a period of great social and political change among the Anglo-Saxons. The Vikings became a common enemy for all Anglo-Saxons, making them more conscious of a national and common Christian identity that outweighed their differences. Alfred the Great. A statue of the Anglo-Saxon King Alfred the Great in Winchester, England, via Encyclopaedia Britannica. Alfred the Great, 848 to 899 CE, was king of the West Saxons from 871 until 886 CE. During this time, Viking settlement continued in the kingdoms of Mercia and East Anglia, while they continued to plunder both sides of the English Channel. Once he had ascended the throne, Alfred spent years fighting off numerous Viking invasions. One of his greatest victories involved defeating the Vikings at the Battle of Edington in 878 CE, after which he converted their leader Guthrum, 835 to 890 CE, to Christianity. He recaptured London and established a boundary between the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings, creating what was known as the Danelaw. Alfred further strengthened his kingdom against the Vikings by establishing a highly competent army and by creating a series of fortresses known as boroughs. He is also credited with starting the English navy by building ships against attacks from the Vikings at sea. By defending his kingdom against Viking attempts at conquest, he eventually became the dominant ruler in England. In addition to his success on the battlefield, Alfred the Great was also known as a gracious and merciful man, who improved the quality of life for his people. He was highly learned, encouraged education in Old English, and improved the legal system and military structure for the benefit of his people. The Battle of Hastings. The defeat of the Anglo-Saxon King Harold depicted on the Bayeux Tapestry, 11th century, via the Bayeux Museum, Bayeux. The end of the Anglo-Saxon period came when a conquest by William of Normandy, 1028 to 1087, took place in 1066. Although the Danish king Knut, 997 to 1035 CE, had also conquered the Anglo-Saxons in 1016, he and his sons reigned only until 1042 CE. The conquest that took place in 1066, however, put a permanent end to Anglo-Saxon rule in England. At the Battle of Hastings in 1066, the last Anglo-Saxon king, Harold Godwin's son, 1022 to 1066, was apparently slain by an arrow to the eye. Leaderless, Harold's army was soon defeated by the Duke of Normandy and his forces, ushering in a new Norman dynasty in England. Anglo-Saxons remained the largest portion of the population after 1066, however, many landholders and churches lost substantial parts of their estates. In fact, most of the nobility were exiled or forced to join the ranks of the peasantry. French became the official language of the law and royal court, although books continued to be written in English. Many from the subsequent generations were also able to learn English at home, thanks to the survival of the matriarchs of Anglo-Saxon nobility. Read next. Imperial Rome versus provincial Rome. What's the difference?
King Alfred the Great. King Alfred planned. Well, it's a beautiful thing when we have the opportunity to at least look for ourselves. Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing, man. And when we think it's this, it's actually that. And when we are say, okay, it's that, it's really not. So again, this is the Black Sea. This is where these people, North Sea, so the Atlantic, big old ocean, go all the way around. Roman Empire, Constantinople, interesting area. Yeah, man, Frankish people, all of these foreigners. Yeah, man. So these are the new chosen people, It's an interesting journey. Yeah, man, it's really an interesting journey. Information share. Yeah, man, the brave may fall, but never yield. And we say bold and brave, firm and strong. Most people will find it problematic to actually question religion, to actually look at, say, alternative information. Some people would say sacrilege. If this was the old time days, they would have probably excommunicate a man such as I, like what they did to the man they call Martin Luther when he moved against the ungodly Roman authorities. It's no different now. We have Canaanites, guys themselves as Israelites. And then we have another Anglo-Saxon people that said the moment the Israelite disappeared, they appeared. So it's an interesting journey. Yeah, man. And it's only a few will be able to fathom what really is being shared. We not say nothing per se, we just share information with, you're going to see a pattern. Yeah, man. So step by step, people. It's always interesting for a man such as I, really. can't stop smiling. I just keep this joy within I. Yeah, man. And the joy and remove the fire. We are blaze. God that not cease. It's a perpetual fire. It's an everlasting fire. And it's from within. It's not from out there. This fire manifests from within. Yeah, man. You used to say people brag how they are woke. You know what I mean? And them wake and hey. And I said, man, we are sleepwalking. A lot of us are daydreaming. But we still miss it as a people. They said the pen is mightier than the sword, but I forward and said truth is supreme. Yeah, man. God, truth stand the test of time. And truth is always simple. Truth is never complex. Usually people walk right by the truth, quick and fast. For go down rabbit hole chasing, you know, the picture of that truth. Chasing the illusion. Yeah, man. And I said this financial security where all people are chase is that carrot. Yeah, man. There is no excuse for us not to be on this level. We can comprehend, say, it's all about paper. In whatever form, it's just paper. When we can grasp that, then I guess we can, you know, start build around that kind of foundation, opposed to I try to amass this illusion where you can't take nowhere with you. If the world is how it is, it's no surprise, because the God of this world is the adversary to what we would have called nature. Irrespective of what is being said, I man is here before all of these things forward. Earthling. And at this level, man should be aware, say, there's all kind of other forms of intelligence out there. Proof? Easy. Look at our technology within the past few years. Look how we as a people struggle for over hundreds of years, and then within less than 50 years, we're so advanced. How? This is why we have so much distractions out there. God, them not want people focus on the task at hand. Them have to give you all kind of illusionary distractions. And when it's not the World Cup or some kind of entertainment, it's some kind of other pandemic. It's like the banking catastrophe what we are experiencing now, where by way of a presidential proclamation, We'll move the substantive gold as the monetary unit of standard and replace it with the dollar, paper, which was a plan. These guys don't just do things by the, willy-nilly. These guys have plans that they lay in place for hundreds of years. This is how this adversarial entity operates. When you look at a document, Memorandum 2000, Henry Kissinger, these documents are expressive. When we share information, it's nothing new, really. Other people before we share all of these information. All we are do is reiterate these things and put our twist on it. Where a man did a talk said mean, we not see it that way, not necessarily. We are said the whole earth is out of course. If ancient writings are said the whole earth pollute, then it's just that. So if man talk about Adam, then if there was a deluge, we wipe everything clean and start with Noah, then Adam's side of things is history. It exists. Now them say it start with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, we populate the earth. However, other people are give for them own versions at the same time. Like the Indian people from this side of the hemisphere. We have to ask questions, people, only for honorable clarification. There is no way I'm not going to look out there and look upon a man when I look like me and it's not curious. Me have to be curious. I say, how that man that looks so, he not look like me. When come from, what's his point of origin? God cannot be right here. But my people is afraid of these kind of questions, because a lot of way, by way of miscegenation, we now go on acknowledge truth. By way of commercial entrapment and contracts, we will not acknowledge truth. This is why I'm not impressed with the entertainers. I play music so I can entertain myself. I don't look to entertainers for teach me political science. I can't do that. I don't look to entertainers to teach me morality or integrity. I can't do that. When I look to entertainers, I want to be entertained. I want to hear some music where me probably can't sing. I want to rock and vibe to some melody where I know I can't touch them notes there. And if it's hardcore, I want to hear some things where it's like a story, because I'm not necessarily going to participate or partake. Free will. But it's all entertainment. Some good, some is not. But it is distractions. Where the edification there. Because the moment any entertainer gets serious and start talk about the true issues will affect the common people, them are remove him from whatever contract, them are shelf them. Or them are call them in one private meeting and say, what are you dealing with? Revolution or money? Here is a whole bunch of money. Remove yourself from that revolutionary stance. This is what I'm doing to the entertainers. And when you're an entertainer, where you have your woman and your children and your family and people where you care about, you got to think and say, watch it, it's not worth it. A very few will say, watch ya, keep that money and all of that. Me will go on side with my music. A very few. Irrespective of what these entertainers are saying, we all know it's a job, it's a work, and you need to be compensated. However, if you don't own your intellectual property, or as them would say, the masters or whatever it is you have to deal with, then someone else are going to own that and control that. And you're going to probably end up whole and broke. Because usually a foreign company govern those kind of business activities. Foreign company. We now have our own thing. As much people as we are, we now have our own thing. Anything and everything we do, we have to ask permission. You have to get licenses. You have to ask the colonial masters for permission. So you always move with privileges as a people. But we turn the blind eye and say, sure, after we don't know nothing about that. As if that is any excuse. Who are these people? Now you know, or at least one point of view, the Anglo-Saxons in Britain over there. Those Anglo-Saxons, they are originally from Germany. You understand? I'm going to know, so you'd have German people who might have looked like I. Surprisingly. Just like Russian people will look like I. No different from Chinese people will look like I. So we have to kind of check them spirit they out there, yeah. Don't let them lullaby you people. Yeah, man, don't let them fool you, man. Good people is out there. A lot of them. You know what I mean? But when I think of the one them where the crowd are flock, usually those one kind of get spoiled. Usually. Anyway. Great uprising, free people. Great uprising. We always have to respect free will. Once you become an adult, past the age of consent where your parents responsible for you, then you make your own choices. And even we as parents have to acknowledge and accept and respect these choices. So it's no edict. It's always information share. So our people, where they are the base level, can, step up to the basic level and move forward. Complete gratitude, people. Salute.